Welcome back, friends. Today, let's start biochemistry discussion. This is the part of cytology topic according to the Tanzanian syllabus. But normally in Tanzania, we are teaching this as the separate topic. So, why we are teaching this as the separate topic? It is because it needs a lot of explanation and to learn about all of these molecules, to elaborate one molecule after another. So by learning it as the separate topic, it simplifies its study and makes us to be competent rather than learning at the part of cytology. Lakini nitakachokuwa nakifundisha ndicho kinachohitajika na NECTA exams na ndicho ambacho kinakuwa kinatoka kwenye NECTA exams. So don't worry, mwalimu atakaye kufundisha kama part of cytology topic au atakaye kufundisha kama separate topic, the same issue ni kwamba atafundisha nini, what will be the contents of the sessions. So in biochemistry, we'll start first with discussing about introduction to biochemistry. And then after discussing introduction, we'll have a discussion on the carbohydrate. We'll discuss a lot about carbohydrates, the categories of carbohydrates, the functions of carbohydrates at different levels in living organisms. And then we'll move to lipids. We'll discuss different categories of lipids and their functions in living organisms. After that, we'll go to proteins. Also, we discuss the building blocks of proteins, their properties, their functions, classifications. After that, for the case of organic molecules, for our level, we'll discuss carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and the ATP. So we'll discuss also about ATP, and we'll discuss about the enzymes. But enzymes, they are protein in nature. So enzymes is specific kind of protein. We discuss it in the separate part of the topic. Kwa pamoja na kwamba enzymes, they are protein, or most of the enzymes, they are protein in nature, but we must discuss them at the separate part. And also we discuss water as inorganic compound. Kwa hiyo tutasoma water kama inorganic compound, lakini pia kuna baadhi ya parts kama nucleic acid tuenda kuidiscuss kwenye topic ya genetics, na part ya ATP na idiscuss kwenye topic ya respiration. Lakini kwa mtu ambaye atakuwa anasoma biochemistry peke yake, I must give him or her the sessions of respiration in order to study ATP. So ATP structure and function tunaisoma kwenye respiration, na huku tutasoma tu introduction, carbohydrate, lipid, protein, tenda water, alafu toka hapo tuta move kwenda enzymes. Kwa hiyo kwenye kipindi hichi nianze na introduction to biochemistry. Biochemistry is the study of chemicals of living organisms. Study of chemicals of living organisms, or the study of chemicals of the cell. In the previous topic, ambayo ni cytology, tumesoma kuhusu the cell and different cell organelles, how they are performing work and different adaptations they possess to perform their functions. But in this part of cytology, we are discussing the chemicals which are present in the cell and what are the functions of those chemicals. If there is carbohydrate, what is the function of that carbohydrate? So all organisms are made up of chemicals which constitute the protoplasm of their cells. All organisms. These are known as the chemicals of life. They are known as the chemicals of life. The study of chemicals of life and the chemical reaction in which they take place is known as biochemistry. So biochemistry, we can say the study of the chemicals of life and the chemical reactions in which they are taking place. So nasoma chemicals, lakini pia nasoma different chemical reactions ambazo hizo chemicals of life zinakuwa zina take place. The chemicals of life, they are divided into two major types or into two major categories or groups, namely the organic chemicals of life and the inorganic chemicals of life. Tunavyokuwa nasema chemicals of life ni all chemical constituents of the cell, all chemicals which can be found in the cell. So actually you might not know this, but what happens is that living organisms, they are made up of chemicals. The smallest part of any chemical is an atom. I hope when I am talking about an atom, most of you know. Even the living organisms, they are made up of atom. That's why we are studying about hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus. All of these, they are atoms. Oxygen, they are atoms. And in the living organisms, the most abundant atoms or elements, we have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, also nitrogen. We have other elements such as sulfur, phosphorus, they are also present. But the most abundant elements in the living organisms, they are four. Now we know atoms compose what we call an element. And we know from general chemistry knowledge that all substances or everything is made up of atom. Everything you know is made up of atoms. Dalton atomic theory in a state kwamba matter, they are made up of the small indivisible particles called atoms. Kwa tunasemaje? Atom, they are making up what you call elements. And the atoms, they can combine, or the elements, they can combine to form what you call compounds or molecules. Compounds or molecules, it depends. Unaona? They can form compounds or molecule. The compounds or molecule, they can combine. These they can act as the monomers. They can act as the monomers, which combine to form polymers. They combine to form polymers, and these polymers always they support structural support. Always they provide structural support in living organisms. In living organisms. So what I'm saying here ni kwamba sisi living organisms tumekuwa made up na nini? Na atoms. Ukiona ngozi it is protein. What is protein? Tukianza kuichambua protein tunakuta mle ndani mna nini? Amino acid. Amino acids. Ndani amino acids mna nini? Mna carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. Unaona? So within the amino acid we have these elements, they have been bonded. Unakuta we have carbon, maybe here we have R. Pale tuna labda tuna group kama ile pale, pale tuna group ile pale. Then pale tuna group fulani. You see? Sasa unakuja kuona the amino acid is made up of the elements carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen bonded in a certain structure to form a molecule. This is a molecule. To form a molecule which is called the amino acid. Kwa hiyo, when we are discussing about biochemistry, you must be having this in mind. Kwamba kwenye seli kama seli, kwanza kuna chemicals. Lakini tunapo discuss biochemistry, it's not only the chemicals of the cell, because living organisms, they are made up of the cell. We said cell is the basic structural and functional unit. Kwa hiyo kwenye structure, living organisms, they are made up of cells. Kwa tukisema tuna discuss chemicals of the cell, manake tuna discuss every kind of chemical present in the human body or in the body of living organisms. Lakini hatutaweza kuchambua zote kwa level yetu. So tunachambua juu juu. Ukienda level nyingine unachambua tena kwa undani, unachimba tena, unaenda chini, unafukua tena. Lakini for our level tuna discuss juu juu. Yaani juu juu uelewe ni kweli biochemistry will be somehow long, lakini hii tunayo discuss ni juu. So you must know living organisms we are made up of atoms, and the atoms they then finally combine to form compounds, and the compounds they form polymers. Finally polymers ndizo ambazo zinakuja kutengeneza structural component. What are the polymers? Hivyo vingine utavielewa ukiwa unasoma organic chemistry form 6, lakini kwa sasa what you need to understand is that living organisms we are made up of the atoms. So the chemicals of life are divided into two major types, namely the organic chemicals of life and inorganic chemicals of life. Organic chemicals of life are compounds which contain carbon. These include carbohydrate, nucleic acids, lipids, vitamins, and proteins. Hizo ni organic chemicals of life. While the inorganic chemicals of life are all other compounds such as water, mineral salts, bases, and mineral acids. All of these, they are inorganic chemicals of life. Organic compounds are important because they form the structural component of bodies of organism. Kama nilivyokuambia, organic compound zinatengeneza polymers, naona, ambazo zinasaidia katika structural component of living organisms. In general, they are composed of the element carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen as the major elements. In addition, protein have nitrogen, phosphorus, and sometimes sulfur as the additional elements which make the proteins. So what are the importance of the organic chemicals of life? Because we have just introduced about the organic and the inorganic, but many of the molecules in the human body, they are organic. What are the importance, or why are they advantageous? In organisms, organic chemicals of life are important for two reasons. First is the structural component of their body. They make the structure of their body. And the second is the regulators of chemical processes. Regulators of chemical processes occurring in them. So the organic chemicals of life, some of them they act as enzymes, and some of them as hormones, which regulate different chemical reactions taking place within the cell. Organic compounds are divided into two major groups, the micromolecules and the macromolecules. Micromolecules, hizi ni molecules ambazo zinakuwa ni small in size. For example, you have monosaccharides, disaccharides, amino acids, and fatty acids. But the macromolecules, they are large in size, and normally they help in structure formation, such as formation of hereditary particles. So, example of the macromolecules, you have proteins, polysaccharides, lipids, enzymes, and nucleic acids. But we'll go to discuss into the detail of every kind of these molecules later. We have few differences between the micro and the macromolecules. Kwanza, the basic units are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. While here in the macromolecules, they are formed by polymerization of molecules, such as starch from monosaccharides. So they are formed from polymerization for micromolecules. The micromolecules, they have low molecular mass, while they have a high molecular mass. The micromolecules mostly soluble, while the macromolecules, they are mostly insoluble. These are just some of the differences between the micro and the macromolecules. We have concluded about the introduction to biochemistry. In the coming session, we'll start discussing about carbohydrate. So we'll have a discussion regarding carbohydrate, and I hope the discussion will be well. Thank you, and later wish you nice studies.